when people pick mushrooms, when they go out and pick mushrooms, the real issue seems to be that there's some mushrooms that are edible that look very close to mushrooms, very similar to mushrooms that are very poisonous.
There's another mushroom called Amanita pantherina. Pantherina is a kick-ass mushroom.
The thing about mushrooms that's really interesting is mushrooms actually mimic natural human neurochemistry. There's 5-MeO-DMT, there's N-N-DMT, but it's real close to human neurochemistry, so your body absorbs it very easily. When people pick mushrooms, when they go out and pick mushrooms, the real issue seems to be that there's some mushrooms that are edible that look very close to mushrooms, very similar to mushrooms that are very poisonous.
True to the uninitiated and the people who have not learned. But once you learn the chanterelle, you will not mistake it. Nothing looks like a lion's mane mushroom. Once you learn a lion's mane mushroom, it's hard to mistake it. So there are some lookalikes, and with the Amanita phalloides, the destroying angel, and with the paddy straw mushroom, which is commonly cultivated and collected in Asia, many of the mushroom deaths in North America have come from not displaced peoples, but people who've come from Asia, and because they're secretive in the language barrier and the culture of being wild collectors, they then mistake the destroying angel for a paddy straw mushroom. That's a real common mistake. There are other people who said it just looked edible. That's a really dangerous thing to say. So you have to know species individually.
Right.
There's edible species of Amanita, and there's poisonous ones, and there's deadly poisonous ones.
Right. Speaking of mushrooms, this is something that I get wrong all the time. This is one of the other things I wanted to ask you. What is there's some very close relationship that mushrooms have and the absorption of mushrooms have to DMT. Mm-hmm. What is the chemical differentiation?
Okay, very, very slight, actually. So you can see so there's serotonin, psilocin, and dimethyltryptamine.
Wow.
You can see that psilocin and dimethyltryptamine are very close in structure. The only difference is that hydroxy group, that OH group.
That's the only difference. So with that removed, psilocin is exactly the same thing as N-N-dimethyltryptamine.
That's correct.
Wow.
But that single trivial difference is what makes psilocin orally active and dimethyltryptamine is not.
Wow.
So that's why psilocin's orally active. It doesn't require an MAO inhibitor. It's just, in some ways, it's the perfect psychedelic because no preparation needed. You just bend over and pick the mushroom. No preparation is required, which is probably why very ancient man knew about psilocybin. They couldn't not have if they were living in an environment where it was found.
The Amanita seems to have a lot of controversy as far as its efficacy, as far as like its psychedelic efficacy.
What's that?
That I don't know anybody that's ever really tripped off of it.
Muscaria or Amanitas?
Yeah.
Oh man, do I have a story?
Please.
Oh my God.
Because everybody that I know, and that was something that McKenna talked about as well. Terrence talked about while he was alive. They said that it seems that it's genetically variable, seasonally variable, perhaps even environmentally variable.
All those things are partially true. I've eaten Amanita muscaria 4 or 5 times. Amanita muscaria is the red mushroom with the white dots. It's the fairy tale mushroom. It's perfectly legal, Santa Claus mushroom. It contains muscimol, muscarine, and ibutinic acid. Actually, very small amounts of muscarine. But the muscarinic symptoms cause salivation and sweating. And I tripped with my friend on Amanita muscaria, and I looked at him, and he was foaming at the mouth. And he had all these bubbles coming out of his mouth. And I go, man, dude, you look like you have rabies. He goes, you should see what you look like. But then Amanita muscaria, I've eaten that a few times, and people do boil it in water, throw away the water twice, and they can make it into an edible mushroom, but it's not that great of an edible.
Not that it created vision, but that it improved vision. And it was one of several things they think led to us evolving quicker. One of them was that we started experimenting with different food sources. We had more access to like bugs and, you know, rats and all these little things that we could catch. We started hunting things. Then we started using tools to figure out how to hunt things. And all during this process, we're eating weed and we're eating mushrooms. So we're probably interacting with these psychedelic compounds that people have used for thousands and thousands of years when we were primitive man. And so as we're taking these things, we're trying to figure out new ways to hunt, new ways to protect ourselves from our enemies, new ways to farm. We started inventing things. We started inventing language. I think there's a direct connection between psilocybin use and the ability to create words and language.
So really, we are just nature.
Yeah.
We just keep evolving and evolving.
Yeah. We're nature that lives in houses. That's
it.
That's what we are.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like now that I'm thinking, like, so the shrooms. So really everything came from the shroom, and the shroom kind of...
Shroom used us.
Yeah, the shroom used us in growing into us to...
The shroom used us to manifest reality. The shroom used us to create life. And it's not just the shroom, it's the ideas too.
But there's another mushroom called Amanita pantherina. Now, pantherina is a kick-ass mushroom. It has 5 times or more the amounts of emucimol and ibutinic acid, almost no muscarine. So the salivation effect of Amanita muscaria. So I have had a very good friend. We are not friends anymore, unfortunately. But I was in charge of the herbarium at the Evergreen State College. And I freeze-dried Amanita pantherina. They're called panther caps. They're brown in color, and they have dots. Very good. The panther cap, perfectly legal mushroom, and extraordinarily powerful.
The thing about mushrooms that's really interesting is mushrooms actually mimic natural human neurochemistry. There's 5-MeO-DMT, there's N-N-DMT, and then what mushrooms, what it's processed to, the way it your body processes it becomes something called 4-phosphorylloxy N-N-dimethyltryptamine. So it's all real close. I might have butchered that technical description, but it's real close to human neurochemistry. So your body absorbs it very easily. Your body takes it in. Your body knows what it is. Your body knows what to do with it.
See, when I was I like mushrooms because the mushrooms, so the 5-MeO is so powerful that you can't really get a handle on what happened. Like I came back from being away for like 17 minutes. And I'm just like, whoa, that was intense. You know, I felt as if like I was everything all at the same time, and it was, you know, so many different things that was just happening, but you really can't unpack it because it's incomprehensible to an extent, for the larger extent, because you're dealing with, you know, concepts that the human mind can't even grasp because there's no vocabulary to speak about it, you know.
Right.
So when I did the mushrooms were kind of like the rivers and the lakes that leads to the ocean, and it helps me understand how I am part of something so big and something so grand.